well, that you did not speak to the president about the Epstein files. To your knowledge, did Attorney General Pam Bondi speak to the president about what was in the Epstein files?
I can't speak for Attorney General Pam Bondi.
So to me...
3 minutes ago, Pramila Jayapal asked Kash Patel the simplest question a human being can ask. Are these women credible? Yes or no? These women survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network. Women who were abused at 14, at 16. Women who came to Congress and testified. Women who asked to meet with the FBI director, and Kash Patel couldn't answer. Not wouldn't answer, couldn't answer. Because saying yes means he has to explain why he hasn't met with them, and saying no means he's calling hundreds of survivors liars. So he did what cornered politicians always do. He ran. If you're new here, subscribe immediately and turn notifications on. Because what happened in this hearing room isn't just political theater, it's documentation of a cover-up. Watch until the end, because when Jayapal asks her final question, will you continue the cover-up for powerful men, including those who might be on this committee? Patel's silence says everything. Let me set the scene. House Judiciary Committee. Afternoon session. The room was already tense when Jayapal's turn came. Pramila Jayapal, Washington Congresswoman, Progressive Caucus Chair, immigration rights advocate, one of the sharpest questioners in Congress. She had a folder, thick, tabbed, and she had receipts. Receipts showing that Kash Patel, before he became FBI director, had very strong opinions about Jeffrey Epstein, about transparency, about accountability, about revealing the truth, but that was before. This is after. And the difference between those two versions of Kash Patel is the entire story. Mr. Patel, Jayapal began, her voice measured but carrying an edge. You had very strong opinions about Jeffrey Epstein before joining the FBI. Let's remember them together. She pulled out the first document. In an interview with Glenn Beck in September 2023, you said, and I quote directly, "The Black Book is under the direct control of the FBI director." She looked up. You said the FBI director could release it if they wanted to. You said the only reason it was kept secret was the director's decision. She pulled out another document. In December 2023, you made a public appeal. You said, "Tell us who the child abusers are." You demanded transparency. You demanded accountability. Another document. In February 2025, shortly after becoming FBI director, you tweeted, "There will be no cover-up. There will be no lost documents. No stone will be left unturned. And anyone from the previous or current administration who sabotages this will be swiftly dealt with." One more. In June, you told Joe Rogan, "We've reviewed all the information. We will give you everything we have and can share, everything, clear and concise." Jayapal stopped. She looked at Patel. The room was silent, waiting. But then in July, everything suddenly changed. What happened, Mr. Patel? What did you see in July that changed your mind so completely? She put a document on the table. The July memo, the turning point. You and Attorney General Pam Bondi released a video in July. You said, "There's nothing to see, the files are closed, the investigation is over, everyone should go home." She read from the memo. Your July memo says this, I'm reading it verbatim. "We have uncovered over 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence." She paused. 300 gigabytes, Mr. Patel, that's massive. Thousands of documents, hundreds of videos, countless photos, a data pile approaching a terabyte. But then what did you say? "Further explanation will not be appropriate or necessary." Those are your words, your signature, your decision. Jayapal's voice hardened. "I think I know what happened, Mr. Patel. You suddenly discovered that certain names are all over these files, in emails, in messages, in photos, in flight records, and you launched a cover-up. You went from being a transparency warrior to an architect of cover-ups overnight." She leaned forward. "You're under oath, Mr. Patel. This is important. You just testified before Mr. Swalwell that you didn't talk to the president about the Epstein files. So to your knowledge, did Attorney General Pam Bondi speak with the president about the Epstein files?" Patel shifted. "I cannot speak on behalf of Attorney General Bondi." "So you have no knowledge?" "I cannot speak." The question was, do you have any knowledge, yes or no? "I can't speak for..." You're refusing to answer the question. Let the record show the FBI director refuses to answer a simple question. Jayapal pulled out a newspaper. Let me tell you, Mr. Patel, since you won't say it. The Wall Street Journal reported that in May, Attorney General Bondi told the president his name was in the Epstein files, that it was mentioned, that it appeared in multiple locations. And at that same meeting, Mr. Patel, the DOJ stated they did not plan to release the files. She set the paper down. So first, your name is in there. Then, but we won't release them. Is that a coincidence? Patel's face was stone, no expression, silent. If you're still watching, like this video right now, this story needs to reach more people. Comment below, why won't Patel meet with the survivors? Because what comes next makes that question even more urgent. Yesterday, Jayapal continued, you testified before Senator Kennedy. You said, I quote, there is no reliable information that Epstein trafficked girls to others. She repeated it slowly. You said there is no reliable information. 300 gigabytes of data, but no reliable information. And you said, we constantly and publicly ask the public to come forward with more information. She looked at him. Today, in response to Mr. Massey's question, you seem to imply that the survivors are unreliable. Patel protested, that's not what I said at all. Good, then I'll ask you directly. And then Jayapal did something powerful. She brought the survivors into the room, made them visible, made them real. Let me talk about the survivors, Mr. Patel. Let's bring them into this hearing room. These women came to Congress and testified. They gathered their courage and came. They said they were deceived and victimized at the ages of 14 and 16. They said they were subjected to abuse as children. They said no one listened, no one believed. And they wanted to meet with you. They wanted to speak with the FBI. They wanted their claims investigated. They wanted justice. Her voice rose. Some had never given testimony before. They remained silent for years. Silent with shame as if the fault were their own. Silent with fear. They received threats. But they were silent because no one listened. And finally, after years, they dared to come forward, just the way you asked them to. She turned to face Patel directly. You said what? Let the public come forward. Well, they came forward. The question came like a knife. If you're so interested in the public providing information, why didn't you talk to them? Why, Mr. Patel? Pause. Did you meet with them? I'm giving you one more chance. Last chance. Yes or no? Patel tried to deflect. My duty as FBI Director is the answer yes or no. Did you meet with these women who were abused? It's a simple question, one-word answer. Patel's voice rose. Any suggestion from you or anyone that I'm not hunting child predators and human traffickers? Just look at the statistics, look at the numbers. The room exploded. Jayapal and Patel were both shouting now. You're talking about a cover-up, Patel yelled. Where were you during the Obama and Biden administrations when these so-called cover-ups were happening? Why didn't anyone in those administrations speak with these reported witnesses? The chairman intervened. The time belongs to the lady. Jayapal continued, her voice cutting through the chaos. He said the witnesses aren't credible. This is my time, and he said those witnesses aren't credible. I need extra time, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, you're under 5 minutes. You can continue. Jayapal asked the critical question, the one Patel couldn't escape. Mr. Patel, are the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific human trafficking network credible? Simple question. Yes or no? Patel tried to deflect again. Anyone with information about ongoing criminal networks, I'm asking if they are credible. Don't change the question. Ma'am, I'm commenting on the evidence we have, but we routinely ask people to come forward with more evidence, and we will continue to do this. Our door is open. You're not answering my question. The question is, are these women credible? I want a yes or no answer. There are 2 options. I answered the question. No, you didn't answer. I asked 3 times. You escaped 3 times. I'm the only FBI director who welcomes new information. This is the only administration that welcomes new information in this case. For the first time in history, yes or no, are the victims credible? No response, silence. And then Jayapal asked her final questions, the ones that shook the room. Mr. Patel, will you meet with women who were abused, deceived, and had their lives ruined at the ages of 14 and 16, yes or no? Patel didn't answer. Are you going to keep it covered up, including for those who might be on this committee? The room roared, everyone waiting for an answer. Yes, on this committee. Will you continue the cover-up for rich and powerful men? Cameras focused on Patel. The lights hit his face. Jayapal raised her voice. I can shout too, Mr. Patel. Are you going to let them testify? Answer me. Are you going to let them testify? Will these women, the victims, be able to give their statement? Patel's response didn't come. Jayapal's time expired, but the questions hung in the air, unanswered, heavy, suffocating. As Jayapal stepped down, those questions remained. Big questions, disturbing questions. There are 300 gigabytes of data, thousands of documents, hundreds of records, but further explanation is not appropriate. The man who said, "Tell us who the child abusers are," now says there is no reliable information. The man who said, "It won't be covered up," is now not meeting with the victims. The man who said, "No stone will be left unturned," is now putting the stones back in place. There are women who were victimized at ages 14 and 16. They want to meet with the FBI director. They want to tell their stories. They were silent for years and finally spoke. And Patel can't answer the question, are they credible? Subscribe right now because this story isn't over. When more survivors come forward, when more documents leak, it will be here. Let me explain why Patel couldn't answer that question. Because it's a trap, a perfect trap. If he says yes, these women are credible, then the immediate question becomes, why haven't you met with them? Why haven't you listened to their testimony? Why haven't you investigated their claims? If he says no, these women are not credible, then he's calling hundreds of survivors liars. He's dismissing their trauma. He's denying their experiences, and that's career-ending. So he did the only thing he could do. He ran, he deflected to Obama and Biden, he pointed to statistics, he talked about hunting predators, but he didn't answer the question because he couldn't. And Jayapal's final question, the one that hung in the air as her time expired, was perhaps the most important of all. Will you continue the cover-up for wealthy and powerful men, including those who might be on this committee? On this committee? In this Congress? Maybe in the cabinet? Maybe higher up? No answer came, but sometimes silence is the greatest answer. Sometimes silence means yes. There are 300 gigabytes of data, thousands of pages of documents, potentially hundreds of names. And Patel says it's not appropriate to explain further. There are victims, women who were 14 when they were abused, who came to Congress and testified. And Patel isn't meeting with them. There's the question, are they credible? And Patel can't answer. Why? Because answering might upset someone. Powerful people, rich people, maybe someone sitting on that committee. Jayapal saw this, she said it, and Patel ran. This wasn't just another congressional hearing, this was documentation. Documentation of a man who promised transparency and delivered cover-up. Documentation of a man who demanded accountability until he became the one being held accountable. In September 2023, Kash Patel said, "The Black Book is under the direct control of the FBI director. They could release it if they wanted." In February 2025, FBI Director Kash Patel tweeted, "There will be no cover-up." In July 2025, FBI Director Kash Patel released a memo. Further explanation will not be appropriate or necessary. That's the story. That's the entire story. The man who promised to tell us who the child abusers are now refuses to meet with the children they abused. Share this video everywhere. This conversation needs to grow. These survivors deserve to be heard. And Kash Patel needs to answer the question, are they credible? Yes or no? Stay tuned. And here's what makes this even more significant. Jayapal's questioning wasn't random. It was part of a pattern that's been building for months. In December, Patel promised full transparency. In January, he said every document would be released. In February, he tweeted about no cover-ups. In March, victims started coming forward asking to meet with him. By April, those requests were being ignored. In May, according to the Wall Street Journal, Bondi told the president his name was in the files. In June, Patel told Joe Rogan everything would be shared. And in July, everything shut down. Further explanation will not be appropriate or necessary. That July memo is the smoking gun because it acknowledges the evidence exists, 300 gigabytes of it, while simultaneously declaring that the public doesn't need to know what's in it. Think about that. The FBI director admits they have 300 gigabytes of evidence related to one of the most significant sex trafficking cases in American history, and then says the American people don't need to know what that evidence shows. Why not? What changed between February and July? Jayapal thinks she knows, and she said it on the record. You suddenly discovered that certain names are all over these files. Names of powerful people, people who might be on this committee, people in government, people in business, people who cannot afford to have their connections to Epstein made public. And here's the other critical piece that Jayapal exposed: the victims themselves. These aren't anonymous accusers making vague claims decades later. These are women who came to Congress, who testified publicly, who put their names and faces on the record, who asked explicitly to meet with the FBI director and provide their testimony. And Patel won't meet with them? Why? If they're credible, if their testimony matters, why wouldn't the FBI director want to hear it? Why wouldn't he want to gather evidence? Why wouldn't he want to pursue justice? Unless their testimony implicates people he's been told to protect, that's the only explanation that makes sense. The only reason to refuse to meet with credible witnesses who are volunteering their testimony is if that testimony would be inconvenient for powerful people. Jayapal laid all of this out methodically. She showed Patel's own words from 2023 and 2024 demanding transparency. She showed his promises from early 2025 about no cover-ups. She showed the July 2025 memo shutting everything down. She showed the Wall Street Journal report about names